Hello everyone. Today my topic is about gingival inflammation, that is nothing but gingivitis. Coming to the introduction, gingivitis is a non-destructive disease that causes inflammation of gingiva. Pathological changes in gingivitis are associated with the presence of oral microorganism which is attached to the tooth and perhaps in near the gingival sulcus. So coming to the stage 1 gingivitis, that is the initial lesion, the first manifestation of gingival inflammation are vascular changes consisting of dilated capillaries and increased blood flow. These initial inflammatory changes occur in response to microbial activation of resident leukocytes and the subsequent stimulation of endothelial cells. Clinically, this initial response of gingiva to the bacterial plaque is not apparent. So microscopically, you can see the dilated blood vessels, and those blood vessels will be fully filled with the neutrophils. It's like the first line defense mechanism. First, for any infection in our body, neutrophils only will come and see that place. So the leukocytes, mainly PMNs, leave the capillaries by migrating through the walls. That process is called as diapedesis. They can be seen in increased quantities in the connective tissue, junctional epithelium and gingival sulcus. Exudation of fluid from the gingival sulcus and extravascular proteins are present. So coming to the stage 2, that is the early lesion. In the early lesion involves from the initial lesion within about 1 week after the beginning of plaque accumulation. Clinically, the earlier lesion may appear as a early gingivitis and it overlaps and evolves from initial lesion with no clear-cut dividing line. As time goes, the clinical signs of erythema may appear mainly because of proliferation of the capillaries and increased formation of capillary loops between the retiridges or ridges. Bleeding on probing is evident in the early lesion. So, gingival fluid flow and the number of transmigrating leukocytes reach their maximum between 6 and 12 days after the onset of clinical gingivitis. So the amount of collagen destruction will get increased because of more of neutrophils will come there and start to lyse those collagens are surrounding those tissues. So the main fiber groups affected appear to the circular and dentogingival fibers. Alterations in blood vessels, morphological features and vascular bed pattern have also been seen. So the PMN that have left the blood vessels in response to chemotactic stimuli from the plaque component travel towards the epithelium. Then the PMNs are attracted to bacteria and engulf them in the process of phagocytosis. So fibroblasts show cytotoxic alterations with a decreased capacity for a colony production. So microscopically, leukocyte infiltration and the connective tissue you can see, and beneath the junctional epithelium, it consists mainly of 75% of T cells but also composed of neutrophils, macrophage, plasma cells and mast cells. All changes seen in initial lesion continue to intensify with the early lesion. So the junctional epithelium becomes densely infiltrated with neutrophils, as does the gingival sulcus, and the junctional epithelium may begin to show development of retiridges. So the stage 3, the established lesion, the extravasation of erythrocytes into the connective tissue and breakdown of hemoglobin into its component pigments can also deepen the color of the clinical inflamed gingiva. This time only you can see the gingiva will get inflamed when the established lesion forms, only you can see clinically. The established lesion can also be described as moderately to severely inflamed gingiva. The predominance of plasma cells is thought to be primarily characteristics of established lesion. An inverse relationship appears to exist between the number of intact collagen bundles and number of inflammatory cells. Collagenolytic activity is increased in inflamed gingival tissue by the enzyme called collagenase. So microscopically, you can see an intense chronic inflammatory reaction over those area. A key feature that differentiates the established lesion is the increased number of plasma cell, which will become the predominantly inflammatory type of cell. So the plasma cell invade the connective tissue not only immediately below the junctional epithelium but also deep into the connective tissue around blood vessels and between bundles of collagen fibers. So the junctional epithelium reveals widened intracellular spaces filled with granular cellular debris including lysosomes deprived from disrupted neutrophils, lymphocytes and monocytes. So the coming to the stage 4, that is advanced lesion. So the extension of the lesion into alveolar bone, which seems to be the advanced stage, and it is characterized the fourth stage known as advanced lesion or phase of periodontal breakdown. So gingivitis will progress to periodontitis only in individuals who are susceptible. However, whether periodontitis can occur without a precursor of gingivitis is not known at this time. And microscopically, you can see presence of fibrosis of gingival and widespread manifestation of inflammatory and immunopathological tissue damage you can see. At this stage, that is in the advanced stage, the plasma cell continues to dominate the connective tissue and neutrophils continue to dominate the junctional epithelium and gingival crevice. So this is the summary of all the lesions, what is the time, how in what time it will come, the blood vessel, how it look, the junctional and circular epithelium, predominantly immune cells in which stages of lesion you can see, and what about the collagen and the clinical findings also. This is a summary of that. And clinical feature of a gingivitis, how it will show clinically is a systemic approach is required in evaluation of clinical features of gingivitis. So the clinician should focus on tissue alterations because this may be of diagnostic significance. A systemic clinical approach requires an orderly examination of a gingiva for color, contour, consistency, position, and ease and severity of bleeding and the pain. So this section discusses this clinical characteristics and the microscopic changes responsible for each. So the course and duration of the disease, the gingivitis can occur with sudden onset and short duration and can be painful. A less severe phase of this condition can also occur. Recurrent gingivitis is slow in onset and of long duration. It is painless unless complicated by acute or chronic exacerbation, and it is the type most often encountered. Chronic gingivitis is an fluctuating disease in which the inflammation persists or resolves and normal area becomes inflamed. So the description, how we will describe those gingivitis, it's like localized gingivitis, marginal gingivitis, papillary gingivitis and diffuse gingivitis. In case of localized gingivitis, it is confined to the gingiva of a single tooth or a group of teeth, whereas generalized gingivitis involves the entire mouth. Marginal gingivitis involves the gingival margin and may include a portion of a contiguous attached gingiva. Papillary gingivitis involves only the interdental papilla and often extends into the adjacent portion of a gingival margin. So the diffuse gingivitis affects the gingival margin, the attached gingiva and the interdental papilla also. So the gingival bleeding on probing is also another clinical finding of a gingivitis. The two earliest signs of gingival inflammation preceding established gingivitis are increased gingival crevicular fluid production rate and bleeding from gingival sulcus on gentle probing. Gingival bleeding varies in severity, duration and ease of provocation. Bleeding on probing is easily detectable clinical aspect, and therefore it is having a value for early diagnosis and prevention of more advanced gingivitis. Several gingival indices also there for this kind of probing methods. So this is a picture of a probing. While you are probing, see the bleeding over the interdental areas. And the color changes in gingivitis, what are all the color changes normally you can see in the gingiva? Normally, if you see your gingiva, the normal color is coral pink. And that the normal color is produced by tissue vascularity and modified by overlying epithelial layers. But in chronic inflammation, the color intensifies to red or bluish red color because of the vascular proliferation, what we studied in the first and fourth stages of the gingivitis. Because of that proliferation of vascular lesion, that mucosal color will change to coral pink to a reddish or bluish red color. So the color changes vary with the intensity of the inflammation as per the stages what I explained you before. And see the bright red color of a gingiva. See there, here that this area you see a coral pink of gingiva you can see, and in the interdental gingiva you see it's a very red. That is because of a proliferation of vascularity, and that too the inflammatory process also is happening. So the metallic pigmentation sometimes you can see in the gingiva, that for example, bismuth, arsenic, mercury, lead, and silver that is absorbed systemically from therapeutic uses or occupational or household environments may discolor the gingiva and other areas of oral mucosa. Sorry. Typically, metal produces a black or bluish line in the gingiva that follows the contour of the margin. The pigmentation may also appear as isolated black blotches involving the interdental margin and attached gingiva. So the diseases that causes the increased melanin pigmentations are, the first and foremost is Addison's disease. It is the adrenal dysfunction and produces isolated patches of discoloration varying from bluish black to brown. So the second thing is Peutz-Jeghers syndrome. It produces intestinal polyposis and melanin pigmentation in oral mucosa and lips. Albright syndrome is another condition which causes melanic pigmentation in gingiva. It is one form of polyostotic fibrous dysplasia, and von Reich-Lehensen disease, that is a neurofibromatosis, produce area of oral melanin pigmentations. So the changes in the consistency of gingiva also will be seen clinically if the patient is having gingivitis. Both chronic and acute inflammation produces changes in normal, firm and resilient consistency of the gingiva. This is the normal consistency which is firm and resilient consistency. But in chronic gingivitis, both destructive, that time the collagenase enzyme will come, so that will degrade the collagen. That time you can see some destructive edematous area of gingiva, and also because in your immunity, because of the collagenase activity, again it will give some collagens. Then that reparative phase also will be there in chronic gingivitis. You can see both type of consistency of gingiva in the chronic gingivitis patients, and what stage it is depends on the predominance of whether it is a reparative or destructive, whether it is edematous or fibrotic. You have to give into a relative predominance. So the clinical changes in the gingival consistency in acute form, diffuse puffiness and softening you can see. This time we can tell that much reparative things won't happen. That's why we can see soft puffiness of the gingiva. So the sloughing with grayish flake like particles of debris adhering to the eroded surface. So vesicle formation we can see in case of acute forms of gingivitis, but in chronic forms, soggy puffiness that pits on pressure. Marked softness and fragility with ready fragmentation on exploration with probe, and pinpoint surface area of redness and desquamation you can see. And the lesion, the gingivitis, the gingiva will be firm, leathery in consistency because of a reparative thing. And histopathologically, how you will see in acute forms, you can see a diffuse edema of acute inflammatory cells, that is eosinophils, neutrophils, and those are all the acute inflammatory origins. And the fatty infiltration in xanthomatosis also you can see. Necrosis with formation of pseudomembrane composed of bacteria, polymorphonuclear leukocytes, and degenerated epithelial cells in the fibrinous meshwork. Intercellular and intracellular edema with degeneration of nucleus and cytoplasm and rupture of cell wall you can see in the acute form. In chronic gingivitis, infiltration by fluid and cells of inflammatory exudates, and the degeneration of connective tissue and epithelium associated with injurious substances that provoke the inflammation and inflammatory exudates. Fibrosis and epithelial proliferation with long-standing chronic inflammation you can see histopathologically in chronic gingivitis. And this calcified masses sometimes in gingiva also can change the consistency of a gingiva. For example, they can occur alone in group or in vary in size, location, shape and structure, and such masses may be calcified material removed from the tooth and traumatically displaced into the gingiva during scaling, root remnants, cementum fragments or cementicles. Chronic inflammation and fibrosis and occasional foreign body and giant cell activity also occur in relation to these masses. And tooth brushing is one of the main cause for the change in the consistency of gingiva. And tooth brushing causes an increased turnover rate and desquamation of junctional epithelial cells. So this process may repair small breaks in junctional epithelium and prevent direct access to the underlying tissue by periodontal pathogens. And sometimes you can change you can see the change in surface texture of a gingiva. The surface of normal gingiva usually exhibits numerous small depressions and elevations. So giving the tissue an orange peel appearance, how you will see the orange peel, how it will be some stipplings over there. Those stipplings you can see if you just dry the gingiva and see in light, you can see some stipplings. That is because of it is attaching with the underlying bone also. So some investigators concluded that the loss of stippling is an early sign of a gingivitis, and in chronic inflammation the gingival surface is either smooth and shiny or firm and nodule, depending on whether the dominant gingival changes are exudative or fibrotic. So see this is a loss of stippling in gingiva. In this image, see the interdental area of that incisors, you can see some stipplings, but not everywhere you can see. You have to see if it is a normal gingiva, you have to see the whole place with that kind of depressions. And changes in position of the gingiva, that is because of some traumatic lesions, some chemical injuries with normal aspirin, hydrogen peroxide. These are all the things we can use daily in our dental practice. And physical injuries can include lip, oral and tongue piercing, which can result in a gingival recession, and thermal injuries also can change the position of a gingiva. And gingival recession, by clinical definition, recession is an exposure of root surface by an apical shift or in the position of a gingiva. So the gingival recession is a common finding in every patient. So the prevalence, extent and severity of gingival recession increase with age and are more prevalent in males. The actual position is the level of coronal end of an epithelial attachment of the tooth, whereas the apparent position is the level of crest of a gingival margin. So the recession refers to the location of gingiva, not its condition. So receded gingiva can be inflamed but may be normal except for this position. The following etiological factors have been implicated in gingival recessions are the tooth brushing technique. That is very important in gingival recession. You have to see in patients having gingival recession. If you are seeing, first you have to inquire whether the tooth brushing is like that. In aging it will happen normally, but normally in young patient, if you see, you can see some more recessions. That is because of the poor tooth brushing techniques. And the gingival inflammation, abnormal frenum attachment and iatrogenic causes of dentistry. So the gingival recession, this is the case, this is the clinical image of a gingival recession. And the changes in gingival contour, you can see the changes in gingival contour are primarily associated with gingival enlargement, but such changes may also occur in other conditions. So the term Stillman's cleft has been used to describe a specific type of gingival recession consisting of a narrow triangular shaped gingival recession. That the recession you can see, it will be like a long lengthy triangular, it's narrow, very narrow. The recession of a gingiva you can see. The term Macalfestunes has been used to describe a rolled thickened band of gingiva usually seen adjacent to the cuspids, especially in the canine regions. You can see when recession approach to the mucogingival junction. And this is the clinical image of the first image is that narrow area of the recession, Stillman's cleft, and that is a Macalfestunes. See the festune, see the fibrotic bonds over the cuspid areas. So this is the Macalfestunes. And conclusion. So gingivitis is a reversible disease. Therapy is primarily aimed at reduction of etiological factors to reduce or eliminate inflammation, thereby allowing gingival tissue to heal. That is the main thing in treatment of a gingivitis. As with all disorders affecting gingival tissues, maintaining excellent oral hygiene is the primary to successful therapy. Thank you once again, and I hope you can understand this.